On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very special treat. She's an exciting world builder, super entrepreneur, keynote speaker, co-founder, and former executive creative director of Refinery 29, and founder of her most recent innovative project called Wild Things World, just to name a few. She's an expert at building distinctive visual brands, nurturing creative talent, and expanding the representation of women in media, no big deal. She's led purpose-driven artistic activations, working with nonprofits like Planned Parenthood and more. She's a certified teacher and healer, spreading joy and creative confidence around the globe. And her ability to, as she says, be the spark, live with heart, and turn it into art is second to none. She's all about self-love, the importance of play, and cultivating courageous creativity for optimized innovation. She's just a juggernaut in all facets of life and a terrific mother and wife. Please welcome the creative, vulnerable, artistic, and brilliant, the playful Piera Gelardi. How you doing, Piera?
I'm good, and what an introduction. Thank you so much.
I'm so happy I did good by you. You feel nice and elevated?
Your introduction, I don't know,
I
all of a
don't know what
sudden
you're gonna say.
it just froze after the introduction.
It was so powerful that the Wi-Fi couldn't
Yeah,
handle
exactly. It was such a powerful introduction that it just froze the internet.
it. I'm so excited to have you on today. For the listeners, we're about 4 million now. In case you're not familiar with Piera, my biggest suggestion is to do a deep dive, play catch up, check out all the amazing things that she has going on. Spoiler alert, you guys are going to love her vibe. We probably could have chatted for 3 hours before we hit record. At some point, we literally cut the conversation. We're like, let's just save this juicy stuff for the show. But before we dive in, we're going to get a little weird. You ready for me, Piera?
I'm ready. I love being weird.
What is your superpower?
Oh, my superpower is play. My superpower is definitely play.
Why is that so important for you?
Play is just such an incredible, it has so many superpowers in and of itself. Play is so important for connecting to ourselves, to connecting to other people, to feeling alive. Play is basically the opposite of survival mode. So when you are playing, it requires you to let down your guard. It requires you to tap into your creativity, and it is also something that really helps us to connect with each other. When we think back to our most fond memories of the people that we love, it's usually moments that we're playing together.
That's awesome and so relatable to me because, as you can imagine, as I informed you before we record, I spent 13 years on Wall Street, and a lot of play was probably something I didn't tap into. It was very serious, very intense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And ultimately, when I reinvented myself, I made one guarantee. Like, there's no guarantee that this will work, but for the first time in my life, ever, I will show up as the real, raw, authentic, unapologetic version of myself. And not everyone will dig it. It won't be everyone's cup of tea, but the right people will gravitate, and life will kind of act as a direct filter. And ironically, the more I step into that and play, and the stranger I am, the more people connect with me. And so I love that.
Right.
I love how that's so important for you. And ironically, when you get in that vibe of play and joy, like, you end up being a magnet and a vibrational match for all the stuff that you desire anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. And you become this spark and you light up other people. It's so contagious when you step into that authenticity like you did, when you allow yourself to be playful. You give people around you that permission to play as well. And then that is such a powerful, powerful transformative force.
Yeah. I used to think that, and I think many people do, that you desire all these things like money, relationships, materialistic stuff. And then once you get those, you'll activate that feeling of joy, of
Right.
happiness. But what I recently learned and quadrupled down on is first you activate that feeling of having a lit soul, and then you end up manifesting those things that you thought you needed anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. So many people delay happiness or think that happiness is a byproduct of some kind of achievement or milestone, when actually a play is a mindset, and joy is really a mindset. It's a practice. It's really a muscle that you need to continue to exercise. And the more you exercise it, the more you create that reality for yourself.
That's it. Did you always know this, or did you kind of evolve and grow into this a little bit later?
Well, I think everyone's born playful, right? Like play is our, a language that we have as kids, and it's something that you have more permission to do when you're a kid, right? Like everyone expects kids to play. And then, as we grow up, that often gets kind of sucked out of us. So for me, yeah, I'm a playful person, I would say, just from the get-go. And it's something that I've also tried to cultivate, as a creative person. But as I was starting my business, Refinery 29, there were times where I felt like in order to be taken serious, I needed to dial down the playful, that playful part of my personality. But when I did that, when I dialed that down, when I, was inauthentic to that part of myself, I found that I had so much less energy. I had so much, my creativity, I also dialed down my creativity with that. I dialed down the innovation with that. And I dialed down like the enjoyment of the work that I did. And so I kind of got to this point where I felt like, um, if I either was going to continue, um, and have to, and be my authentic self, or I was going to need to stop because it felt so like discordant. And so it was an interesting moment where I felt like, okay, I don't know. I'm worried I'm not going to be taken seriously if I show up in this authentic way. But then when I did, I actually saw all of these incredible things happen. So, when I started to lean more into that playfulness intentionally, I saw, I felt had more connection with people that I worked with. I actually was starting to, instead of damaging my credibility, it was building my credibility. And then the innovation and the creativity of the work that I was doing with my team just started to like, exponentially grow. So, and then also when I became a mom, that also gave me like um, that extra kind of connection to play, through my daughter and through seeing the way that she was experiencing the world, the way that she was playing. So that gave me like this additional level of like play power, I would say.
So
And
good.
during the pandemic, um, I got trained in this form of cathartic dance, and I was teaching that to people around the world on Zoom. And that was another like wow, play is so powerful type of moment, because when I was teaching this like playful dance, what people were coming back to me in terms of how much it was helping their mental health, how much it was connecting them with people that were joining that they couldn't be with in person, how much it was helping them to feel unstuck. Like that was another huge moment for me where I said, wow, this is such a powerful force that we adults need so much more of.
So good. And like, I love all this straight up. Only negative I got going on is we don't have 10 hours to chat, but I have a feeling it's just the beginning
Yeah.
of the relationship. Um, you mentioned like when your daughter was your daughter, right?
Yeah,
When
she's
she was,
4.
yeah, when she was born, you kind of also had this like, extra oomph about being playful. And it's so interesting, like as kids, if you ever just observe a baby, like they have no stress, right? They haven't experienced the ups and downs of life. They haven't got beaten down, right? Or adversity.
Yeah.
Just so beautiful and blissful and joyful and just playing. We
Yeah.
lose we lose that sense of wonder sometimes throughout life, especially if you have some dark seasons, which I think most of us at some point have. And then sometimes we lose that, but nothing like a kid, like your kid being born. And I'm not a dad yet. I just got engaged last summer, hopefully sooner than later.
Congrats.
Thank you so much. When I reinvented myself, it wasn't just a career, it was my life. But it's just so cool to see a baby and just see how they're so joyful and playful and so happy, for lack of better words. And if you can
Yeah.
activate that now or as an adult, it ends up leading to so many different things in life, specifically the word that I know you always use and you just used it is creativity.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting with kids because they haven't gone through some of the dark periods that we have as adults, but, or, often not. But um, also just watching my daughter go through just some of the kind of basic adversity of being a child. They do have things that, the world is like out of their control. It's big, it can be scary, like even seeing her conquer something like crawling, that was like initially so frustrating, and just the way that she kept like getting, it was like she was like teaching me. I was watching her do this thing, like she could barely lift her head up, and then she's like starting to try to crawl, and it's super, it was super challenging, but she kept like, getting back
Persistent.
at it. And
Yeah.
I was like, you go, baby. I was like, you know what? Like, this is how you do, like, I feel like there's all these moments where I felt really inspired by her, and like her, yeah, like, that it's not a question. They're gonna teach themselves these things, and they're just like keep going at it over and over again. Or like, also experiencing her wonder and the way that, she looks at the world, or she savors like the first time she eats something, like the way she savored it. I was like, we all need that, some of that like childlike delight and wonder, and like looking at the world with those fresh eyes.
100%. Yeah. This is awesome. I have like a dopamine hit right now. I'm so excited to talk to you. And you mentioned a couple times Refinery 29. I don't want to play too much catch up because I want the audience to check out your stuff immediately.
Yeah, yeah.
But just to give them some context, what was it? That was your baby. What was the deal with that? And why did you give birth to it?
Yeah, so Refinery 29 is a media platform focused on telling women's stories, and telling more complex and nuanced stories about women, as well as providing resources and information for women in all aspects of their lives. So yeah, that was something I worked on for 15 years, from, it being this little tiny spark to, us having hundreds of millions of readers worldwide,
No big deal.
viewers, and then having the business be acquired by Vice in 2019. So it was a long journey. Learned so much in the process, and it was like incredible to see it grow and be able to work on, in the beginning, it was basically, we started with a newsletter and a website, and then it grew into doing films with women directors, creating huge experiential, like global events, doing partnerships with incredible celebrities and brands. So yeah, it was a wild, fun ride.
When did you start that? How old are you?
I was 24.
Wow. And you had a partner?
Yeah, I had three co-founders.
Three co-founders, including you,
Yeah,
or
so
you were the fourth?
I was the fourth. Yes,
God,
there was four of us,
yeah.
and yeah, so
It,
definitely
it,
a great to have
yeah.
partners.
Yeah, the right ones, of course. And I imagine that you were so passionate about this. Just curious, just off the cuff, was your intention long term to have an exit for that to get acquired, or was that just kind of a byproduct of all the success it had?
It was really a byproduct. That wasn't for me. That wasn't, something that
Intention.
I was
Yeah.
thinking about. Yeah. I mean, I think at some point, once you get rounds of investment, it's sort of an eventuality in a way. But for me, I was really just passionate about the work that we were doing, and having an impact, and working with really amazing creative people were the things that really motivated me.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's all. First of all, congratulations. That's really impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know someone like you doesn't stay stagnant. You're always creatively thinking about what's next and keeping yourself stimulated and so forth. And we mentioned that you have a relatively new venture, Wild Things World and so forth. And I wanted to ask you because I totally reinvented myself 2 years ago in the pandemic.
Yeah.
And to an extent, you're kind of reinventing yourself now just because I imagine for so long your identity was the other baby. And now you're
Yeah.
stepping into this. How do you navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge identity shift, like going from, I mean, you think about it, like the way people, especially in the US, like introduce you, or the first question that you get asked at a party is, what do you do? So for so many years, I was Piera from Refinery 29. That's how people introduced me, whether I liked it or not. Sometimes I wanted to say, hey, I'm so much, I have so many other things going on, and I'm more than just this business. But yeah, because of the success of it, and it was a huge part of my identity. So it was like definitely a big transition to move out of that at the end of 2020. And in a lot, in some ways it was liberating, but in some ways it was like I grieved like the end of this long chapter, and I was like, who am I now? And it was, I think sometimes that's a hard one to like to navigate. And like also it was a big identity transformation too, to become, it was like a year after I became a mom as well, so it was like first getting used to this new life of being a mom, and like, what, who am I now, that's a big part of my life. And then, okay, who am I now that I've left this company? So I think I just went back to my core of like, like what's important to me, what are my values, and that's like who I am more than any company or any title. Is like, I'm Piera, I'm playful, I'm creative, I'm open-hearted, I love making things. Like I kind of just went back to that. And then when I was starting to think about, okay, what do I want to do next, I knew that I wanted to do something that helped to bring out people's creativity. That's always been something I've been passionate about, especially as a leader within Refinery 29. I loved working with creative people and helping everyone, whether they saw themselves as creative or not, to bring out their best ideas. And so I wanted to create something, that brought out people's creativity, and that helped people, specifically adults, to play more and to explore their playful mindset.
Yeah, you're a beautiful soul. So there's that. I
Thank
wanted
you.
to ask you this. Do you think that you have to be born creative, or is that a skill set that you can develop?
So everyone is born creative. Some people index more in a certain, like, say, skill. Like maybe some people are born more, with more natural proclivity to drawing or something, but every single person is creative. That's our life force. So but unfortunately, so many people, that gets kind of sucked out of them, throughout life, like whether they have, they're told they're not creative because they're not, a natural born artist, or they're told not to pursue that because that's not going to have financial benefits. Like there's different moments where that kind of gets sucked out of people, or now with like standardized testing being the focus, often like play and creativity are deprioritized.
For true.
So anyway, I think everyone is born creative, but it depends how much you practice it, because like anything, like mindset as well, it's a muscle. So the more you use creativity, I mean, this is, like the more you use your creativity, the more you build it, the more you build that muscle, the more naturally it comes to you. So it's truly, but it is something that everyone have. And even if you haven't worked on that creativity for a long time, you can reclaim that by just basically going to the creativity gym, doing the reps and practicing.
What an awesome analogy. And the word that I was thinking of when you described it, you have to nourish it, right?
Yeah, you have to nourish it. That's a beautiful word. Yeah, exactly.
It's like anything.
Yeah,
It's like staying mentally fit. Like you got to work on that every day.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like, I mean, I think for creative people, the most important thing is like the repetition, to sit down and like focus more on the quantity than the quality, because you just need to keep practicing and nourishing it and making the space for it.
Yeah, hell yeah. And before we hit record, we were sharing a common interest of running. And
Yeah.
like when I know I have a scheduled run when I wake up, I get so excited because I know it's much more than just a physical, cardio. I know I'm going to be available for some creative divine downloads to where I do my best
Mhm.
thinking. Is that a place where you do some of your best thinking as well?
Yeah, I mean, as we were talking about before we hit record, I see running as, yeah, so much more than a workout. It's really for me like a moving meditation, a space where I can explore my mind, where I can practice self-love and coaching myself and encouraging myself and, noticing those thoughts of like of resistance. But it's also, yeah, somewhere that I definitely find that I get I get downloads. I also just find when I get out running, I try and just like keep eyes of wonder, like looking around, noticing things that are beautiful, delightful,
Nature.
interesting around me. Yeah. So I find it very joyful, but like truly like a moving meditation where like when I really get into it, I can kind of like tune out all the noisy thinking and just be in the moment.
Same. Do you ever run in Central Park?
Not so one time I ran to Central Park from where I live, and then I ran around Central Park, but I don't usually like take the subway to run. I usually just like to run out the door. So more often I run to Prospect Park.
Got it. In
Um,
Brooklyn?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
yeah. Any halves in the calendar right now? Any half marathons coming up?
Yeah, I'm doing the Brooklyn half at the end
Same.
of April. Really?
Yes, yes.
Gosh, I'll see you on
Actually,
the road.
yeah, hell yeah. It's funny
Are
because
you doing the full or the half?
the half.
Okay, nice. Are you doing the New York Marathon this year?
So I just did Chicago in October, and I'm the type of cat like, all in, right? And when you
Right.
train for these things, it's almost like a full-time job here. Like it's great, it takes a lot out
Yeah,
of you. So after Chicago, I needed a mental break. And also like the brand is so busy, I'm engaged, like, so many exciting things going on. So I'm still running, but I haven't been training for anything.
yeah,
But I did sign up for a couple things because I know they're good for me. It's good to have things in the
yeah,
calendar, right? Because then it creates great habits and accountability.
yeah,
So to answer your question, I'm signed up for the New York City half, which is in 3 weeks. And
yeah.
after that, the Brooklyn half, which is it in April? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I think it's the end of April.
Usually it's
I think
May.
it's like
Yeah.
oh, well, there's one in April and one in May. There's the one that goes from Williamsburg to Prospect Park, and then there's one that goes to Coney Island.
That's the one I'm
So
doing.
okay,
Going
that's in May.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's in May.
But I'm signed up for both. And then you asked if I'm
I
doing
might do both, honestly.
do it. Hell yeah.
Because for me, a half marathon at this point, like, yeah, like it's good to have something in the calendar. I love making like a visual training schedule. I love the
Hey,
feeling of like crossing off,
you did that this
you know,
morning. Yeah. And then
same
you have to
page.
eat a little better, right? Like you have to do recovery,
Yeah,
maybe a couple Epsom salt baths, whatever the case may be. It's just good for you.
yeah, yeah. I love a goal personally. Like I love a goal, and then I love like, yeah, the preparation to like get to the goal. So
Hey,
that's something that like I need those things on the calendar so that I have it to look forward to, and it just like
LD.
it's it's healthy, exciting for me.
Agreed. And it's not so much the goal as it is who we become on the journey, right? Like
Yeah, it's
training,
true.
excited.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, you're right. It's not like I like to have a goal because it puts me in that like space of
Yeah.
like, who you become on the way to the goal.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
It's like a season, then I feel like I have like a season. Like I just went to Trinidad Carnival with my best friend who's from Trinidad, and I was just in my carnival training season, which was like basically just dancing every single day and like doing dance classes and like getting into, so like I like to like have something that I'm looking forward to that I really just like get so excited about that I like live the build up to it.
It's the best. You gotta have things to look forward to, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pivoting for a second, I wanted to ask you. I know you, and I said in the intro, something that you often like to say is be the spark, live with heart, and turn it into art. I think I know what that means, and I'm really big into that nowadays as well. But for the audience, it's like, oh, that sounds sexy, but what exactly does that mean? What does that mean to
Yeah.
you?
So be the spark for me means like be the first person that's on the dance floor, be the person that's brave enough to be playful, to, you know, be outgoing, to get the get the party started, and that, spread that light. Um, live with heart for me means like be courageous, be open-hearted, um, be vulnerable, and turn it into art means like anything that comes, that, anything that I experience, whether it's good or bad, I can transform through creativity. So if in my experience, like things that have been like deeply difficult and challenging, have been also deeply transformative and meaningful, and been a learning experience because of the way that I've been able to turn them into art, the way that I've been able to kind of approach them with like creativity and play and work through them, through those forces.
Yeah, so good. And I agree with that. And also one thing that I love that you do is like you were saying earlier, like when you were going to step into this new season, like you really had to think about what you want, right? What you're passionate right now. And you're so courageous, and you know that like if you're energetically behind something and you're super passionate about it, you don't have to worry so much about like monetizing or stuff like that, because it's going to happen. I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of people, and I, to be honest with you, I'm one of them. I have contrast. When I used to hear people say, find what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, I'm like, right, okay. Because I was on Wall Street and it started to get
Yeah.
stressful. And but now, I mean, this isn't work. People are always like, Craig, what are you on? I'm like, you don't get it. Like, I spent 35 years trying to find myself. I love this stuff. I'm so
Right.
excited. Like, even if I had $1 billion in the bank, which I don't yet, I would still be doing exactly what I'm doing right now, specifically having this conversation with you. And I want the world to know that you can absolutely create a hybrid of making a massive impact, having a lot of fun, and unapologetically making a lot of money too. It seems like you're with that. Did you ever not think that was the case, or you were just always so heart driven and the rest kind of took care of itself?
You froze for a second. The incredible passion for what you do again caused the internet to just be like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Um, can you say the question again?
Just like, yeah, you're awesome. Like when you step into the stuff that you're so passionate about, you've turned them into really successful careers. Did you ever think that like it had to be one or the other, like either passion or making money, or you were never worried about that? You just led with your heart and the rest took care of itself?
No, I've definitely had, I mean, I've definitely had those worries. I think I have tended to follow my heart and to trust my intuition about things for, most of the big decisions that I've made in my life. But certainly there's been moments, especially in the early days of like building refinery, where I remember talking to my mom like a couple years in. I mean, people used to like, I would say, I think like about 8 years into building Refinery 29 was when we started to have like a lot of momentum and a lot of more like external like success. And people, I'd get interviewed for things and people would say, wow, what's your secret? Refinery just popped off, you're an overnight success. And I used to joke, yeah, it took us 8 years to be an overnight success. Doing anything requires so much faith and
So much.
perseverance. I mean, certainly some people pop off, but usually when you look deeper, it's been a process and a lot of time and work and thought, and failure has gone into that success. So I'm a big believer in like, yeah, being, sticking with your values in particular, because I think when your values aligned, you have a lot more resilience to handle everything that comes along with,
Yeah.
pursuing it is you're passionate about. But yeah, I remember a couple years into Refinery talking to my mom and saying like, I don't know, should I call it? You know, I'm not making very much money. Like at some point, want to start to feel more stable, and us just having that conversation. I mean, I think she told me to call it, like
Really?
she was like, maybe,
Yeah.
I mean, she's such a believer and always like so supportive, but it was like one of those conversations where it was like, sometimes it's you're in that moment where you believe so much in what you're doing, you're so passionate about it, but you're not seeing the results that could be there. They're just not there yet, and that's, it's a tough call to make.
Yeah, hell yeah. And now looking back, like that actually makes me emotional, right? You can only connect the dots looking back. Like, my goodness,
Yeah,
thank goodness you didn't call it.
yeah,
And I imagine you could relate to this. I think for to start and create anything truly special, there's an irreplaceable season of grind, especially in the beginning, right? And then you get to a point where you
yeah,
can work smarter, not necessarily harder. Like even me, I'm starting to learn more about my feminine and allow and be as opposed to do. But in the beginning, like
yeah,
in the pandemic, while most people that I saw were watching that Tiger show and day drinking, I got to work and I was building that brand
right.
and I was working 20 hours a day, but I loved it. And I would never replace that. I think for anything truly special, right? You said like if you look deeper, there's usually that season of grind that people don't really see. Would you
Yeah,
agree in the beginning stages that season of grind is irreplaceable?
yeah, I mean, I think that there's just so much that goes into building something as an entrepreneur, and like so much that people don't see, and it takes a lot. It's beyond, like, people often ask me about, how did you get the idea, and I'm like, forget about the idea. So often it's not about the idea, it's about all the work that goes into like testing the idea,
Execute.
building
Yeah.
it, executing it, failing, pivoting, trying again, like
Problem
I
solving. Yeah.
mean, problem solving, like it's really, it's not so much about the idea as the perseverance and that grit. So I don't, it's interesting because I'm in a new season of life, so I'm reinventing myself. And I worked so hard when I was at building refinery, and now I'm a mom, and I don't want to work in that same way. Like, I also experienced burnout. I was hospitalized at one point. Like, I don't, I worked, grinded to an extent that like I wouldn't want to do again.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting question for me, because it's like, I do think inevitably there's just a lot of hard work that goes into building something.
Yeah.
And like right now I'm in this period of like, okay, well, how do I build something really intentionally, where, I put in that work, I have the perseverance, but I'm not,
Burning out.
taking it to that level of, losing all perspective
Yeah.
and burning out,
Hell yeah. But not for nothing.
especially something, yeah, especially something that's it's centered around play. It's like, how do I do that
Yeah.
with a playful spirit, with this, embodying the values that
Yeah.
I want to embody now.
Hell yeah. But also because you've done this once before, like gave birth to something and started from the ground up, you have a little bit more experience now, you're a little more seasoned,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
maybe you know some things that don't work, so you could stay away from those. And ultimately, because you love this stuff, like you're not working for someone else or doing like a day job that you don't like you love this stuff. So even if you're working a little bit harder in the beginning, it's all for something. So,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all in service of like, I mean, I often think about that. I like thank past Piera and I think about future Piera, because like that's what I'm, everything that I put in, even when I was burning out, and like, if I feel tender when I think about like Piera in the past that was like working that hard. But now I'm like, okay, well, thank you for everything that you did to get us to this point. And now I'm going to take over, and I'm thinking about future Piera too. And like, how is all the work and all the energy that I'm putting into what I'm doing now going to be setting future Piera up for like the dream?
hell yeah. And also because you were burnt out in the past, I know you're really big on self-compassion these days. And correct me if
Mhm.
you even go to the extent of writing yourself love letters.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I think back to that past period, I found this note. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you.
Tell me.
It's okay, it's so sad, but I found this note from, I don't know what year it was, but I think it was probably like 2016, 2017. And I wrote, it was a list of all the ways I was failing. Like I was like, I'm failing, as a leader, I'm failing, on these big projects, I'm failing as a partner, I'm failing as, like I'm failing when it comes to becoming a mom. Like it was this long list of basically in every corner of my life, I wrote that I was failing. And I found it recently and I was just like, oh my gosh. I think during that period where I was burnt out, what I was really lacking in the most was self-compassion. And when I became a mom, I had this moment where I was looking at my daughter and I was just thinking, like, look at this perfect being. And we are all born so perfect and like so special. And I was thinking, like, I was like, at what point is she gonna look at her perfect little body and say, like, oh, it's chubby here, or this, that, the other thing? Like, I was like, I don't want that for her. And if I don't want that for her, if I want her to learn to love herself, then I have to work on how I talk to myself, how I am in relation to myself. And so that was like kind of a daunting task, honestly, because also for so long I believed that being hard on myself was what made me good. Was that I believed that, like, pushing myself like that was what made me grind. um
That
and
management energy.
so and yeah, and that was self-perpetuating, because I was like, well, this, talking to myself in this harsh way is what is pushing me, and that's what's driving the success. When in actuality, scientifically, when you look at self-compassion, there's and or you look at motivation, there's no correlation between um, motivation and talking harshly with yourself. Like, that's not actually proven. And what does actually show to give you more accountability towards your goals is self-compassion. So anyway, I was looking at my daughter, I was thinking about this, and I decided, I really want to work on my relationship with myself. And one morning I just woke up and I said, I'm going to start writing myself these notes. So I have this practice, especially if if I'm having a hard time, I will sit down in the morning, after my daughter is off to school, and I write myself a note. So the format for it is basically, I'll say, like, I call myself Sweet Pea because that's what my family called me when I was little. So I'll say, good morning, Sweet Pea. And then I will basically just take stock of, like, how am I doing physically, mentally, emotionally? And I'll say, okay, this morning, you're feeling really tired because Viva, your daughter, was up, 3 times last night. Don't, and I'll just give myself, like, acknowledgement. I'll give myself advice like a loved one would give me. And I've just found it like a great way to practice self-compassion. It was funny. I started posting these notes on Instagram, and people kept saying, wow, relationship goals, thinking that my partner was writing them to me, my partner, Philip. And and I was like, yes, that's exactly it. I want to be relationship goals to myself. So anyway, I've found that, like, self-compassion has been just such a powerful tool for me. And it's something I really practice when I'm running too. Like, if I ever want to give up, like, I'll say, okay, like I'll check in with myself, like, is it just like a mental block, or am I actually feeling tired and I need to, like, I'll say, okay, why don't we slow down for a block and see how we feel? But we're, like, I find that it does actually really help me to be more accountable, but also much more gentle on myself.
That's a good word. This is gripping stuff because when I reinvented myself, the first thing that I did, which I never did before, you use the word compassion. I think the word give yourself some grace. I think they're both
Grace, yeah.
very
Mm-hmm.
relevant. But for the
Yeah.
first time ever, I decided to love myself and forgive myself for not being where I thought I might be at that time, and for all the shitty seasons of life. Just take ownership and accountability, forgive myself, and just realize that all that matters is what we do next, right? Right. What could we do now? And I gave myself some compassion, some grace, and it was so liberating. And it felt like all this heavy weight that I've been carrying around for so long, like I just like pressed a button and like it just got released.
Yeah.
And now ever since that moment, which was the beginning of the pandemic, I practice that almost every day. If I'm ever having a moment where they used to be days or weeks or sadly even months, now it's just a moment, and I allow myself to feel it, and then I give myself a little
Yeah.
grace, compassion, right? And even to take it a step further, write yourself a love letter. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. It helps so much. Yeah. I mean, I love the word grace too.
Yeah.
Give
Well,
yourself some grace, give yourself some kindness, compassion.
be
Yeah.
kind to
Like,
yourself. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Because I feel like the dominant thinking is that when we're hard on ourselves, that's what motivates us. But in actuality, it like releases so much. Because also something, I just read this incredible book called The Wisdom of Your Body, and it's by a trauma therapist. And she talks about how, like, when someone says something, like when someone shames us or says something really critical to us, it releases all these stress hormones in our body. And actually the same thing happens when we talk to ourselves that way. So just think about like all those, I mean, so we know that stress is terrible for us. So when we talk to ourselves in this horrible way, it's releasing stress hormones in our body. So that can't help anything. So but when we're compassionate to ourselves, that helps to calm our nervous system. It helps to calm us down. And so, of course, that's going to help us to be more successful, more creative, more connected to other people when we're kinder to ourselves.
Yeah. And these are all great tangible ways to just stay higher vibe, right? We'll
Yeah.
attract
Yes.
things. Yeah. Yeah. Final nugget. I want to ask you this, and then we'll land the plane. You talk about it often, and I think it's so cool. Why do people need to take their inner child on play dates?
Yes. So as you know, like we talked about before, as kids, we have a lot more permission to play, but as adults, play doesn't really make it often onto the schedule, right? Like we're grinding, we have goals, we have, responsibilities, we're trying to tick off that to-do list. Um, and so rarely do people make time consciously for play. So I'm a big proponent of taking your inner child on a play date, scheduling time for play and wonder, whether that's going on a 10-minute break and saying, I'm going on a wonder walk. I'm going to look, I'm going to tune my frequency to awe and wonder and just look around and try and find things that are beautiful, that are delightful, or whether it's, going and taking an art class or going and bowling or whatever it is, like whatever. And I think it's good to tap back to like that childhood self and say, like, what did I love doing when I was younger that I would still like, that I want to do again? And how can you kind of give yourself that permission to try those things again? Because it gives us so much life. Play is so amazing for stress relief, for connecting with ourselves and with other people. It's incredible for unlocking creativity and innovation and those idea downloads that you talked about. So yeah, scheduling a play date with your inner child is just like, making that time for joy, delight, wonder.
Yeah, what I think is so cool is that when you talk about that, it sounds like you're putting a block in your schedule to play, which is irrelevant to your life. But the irony is when you do create space for that, it helps in all areas because it puts you in a
Yes,
state of joy. It makes you available
yes,
for those downloads. So
yeah.
it's almost like a prerequisite for success in other areas is to carve out that time.
Exactly. And it's also a mindset. So play, when I talk about play, I'm talking about a mindset of experimentation, of awe, and of wonder, and also of openness. So you can also, like, if you're like, oh, I could never schedule like a 30-minute block to play, it can also come into just your day-to-day. Like, could you sing in the shower, or doodle in the shower steam, or drink your coffee like it's a wine tasting, or, just take a minute to play with your kid without, like, looking at your phone. Like there's lots of little ways to infuse play. And because similar to creativity, it's a mindset. It's like going to the play gym. Like, how do you just get those reps in where you can? If it feels really daunting to like take a scheduled break.
The creativity gym.
Yes.
I'm laughing because that's just amazing. The way it
Okay.
just that's gonna stick with me straight up. And you gotta put in those reps. Yeah, so awesome. Um, like I said earlier, the best part about this for me is just the beginning of the friendship. I think I know the answer,
Yes.
but just in case the audience is breaking out, they're very loyal and engaging, 4 million now. What's the best way for all of them to support you, and what are you most excited about right now?
The best way for them to support me is to join my newsletter, where I share tons of play ideas, little ways to incorporate play and a playful mindset into your life. So that, and what I'm excited about is I'm planning a play camp this summer in New York City. So it'll be a place to
A play
just come.
camp?
Yeah, a play camp.
Tell me more.
So I'm planning a play camp in New York City. So it'll really be, a long weekend to explore your creativity, to play in all kinds of different ways, and to really learn how to build that playful mindset and then bring it back into your life.
Yeah, so cool. And we'll put the link in the show notes to sign up for the
Okay.
newsletter. I imagine it's on your website.
It is. I'll send it. But yes, that'll be amazing.
Cool. How can I personally support you?
Oh, I don't know. Stay in touch. Let's stay in touch. I mean, this is amazing to just, connect with you and connect with your audience, and to, I'm all about spreading the gospel of play.
Tim.
I think it's something that can be so lost in our adult lives, but when we can reconnect to that magical part of ourselves that got lost in adulting, it is that spark that we talked about. It lights the way, and you do that in the work that you do, bringing that joyful, playful spirit and helping people to really understand the power of mindset. So thank you for that.
Yeah, hell yeah. So beautifully said. Hang out for 1 sec, Pierre. I want to connect with you after.
Okay.
I want you to know the definition of perspective, authenticity, and creativity. I could personally guarantee your best yet to come. Keep on spreading your wings and leaving your mark on this world. So much love and respect for you. Thank you so much for stopping by and dropping these priceless, juicy nuggets today.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
The internet didn't break that time with the outro.
I know. I know. I don't know what's going on over here. It's
Yeah,
like
it's all good.
we're all,
So much fun, Piera.
yeah, that was so fun. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So to be
Loved
honest
it.
with you, I came across you. We're hiring and scaling and growing, which is awesome. And someone that we hired was an intern for you a couple years back.
Yeah, yeah, Mackenzie.
Yeah. Okay. Just yeah.
Yeah, yeah. She worked on our PR team.
Yeah. She's awesome. We love her.
She's great. She's really great.
Yeah. I'm so excited for you and all the cool stuff that you have going on, especially the
Thank
new.
you.
I know, obviously, you know what it's like, but like when you're at the beginning of something new, like it's exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I mean, it's also like,
Scary.
yeah, it's challenging because it's like all on you. Every day you're like, okay, what are we doing today?
Is
But yeah, it's very
do you
exciting.
have
I'm so
partners in this
passionate.
one?
What'd you say?
Do
No,
you
I
have
don't have a partner in this one. I'm looking right now for a business partner because, I ran brand creative audience at Refinery and I didn't do the business. And so I'm looking for a business partner, someone that is really passionate about this space, that can help me, model out different paths, like business wise, and be a partner as I build this out. I'm just so passionate about this area, and I feel like it is really like in this moment coming out of the pandemic, and like, I feel like there is more awareness about like balance and people wanting to, like there's like self-improvement, but also people wanting to just like live and have fun and like be connected and feel alive.
Yeah.
Also there's so many things going on. So I'm very passionate about the space. I'm trying to, transparently trying to sort out like what the business model is going to be. And,
It's a good idea.
I know
Yeah, you can't wear all the hats. Otherwise, that's how you'll get burned. That you want to obviously stay in your
Yeah.
zone of genius and do what you do best. So you have to delegate. And to be honest with you, I struggled with that for a while because my thought process was like, who's going to wake up as excited about CLS as Craig? But that's
Right.
it's a scarcity mindset. You got to delegate.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
it's the way where you can do what you do best and grow.
exactly. Exactly.
Let's stay connected.
Yeah, I would love that. I
Are,
would love that.
are you active on Instagram? Is it you or do you have like a team?
Yeah. No, it's just me.
Let's connect there for sure.
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and obviously we'll keep you posted when the episode drops and all that. And I'm just so excited. This was awesome, and I want to build a friendship. And if there's
Yeah,
anything
this
else
was
that I
really
can do
fun.
to support or share you with my audience, anything at all, please let me know.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. No, it's a really fun conversation. I liked how we were like ready to dive in. They're like, oh shoot, we have to hit record.
Yeah, hell yeah. Well, good luck on the run coming up.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Good luck on yours.
and I'll shoot you a message on Instagram in like 10, 15 minutes.
Okay. Perfect.
Bye, Piera.
All
Thank
right.
you again. Have a great rest of the day.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.